If you would like to check out all of my sounds, samples, and presets, all links are in the bio. So this is clearly my first video talking about stamped records, Seth Hills, bass house, clearly my first video. But we're going to be diving into some of the primary techniques that I use, or at least keep in mind all the time when I make these types of high energy songs. Now the theme of this video is going to be experimenting, which is probably one of my least favorite terms just because it's so vague. People always used to say, like, you need to experiment. Well, what does experimenting mean? But the idea that you need to have when you experiment is to experiment with a purpose. So if you're going to experiment, there needs to be a desired outcome of what you want that to be. Now, in some cases, sure, there are times where you just find something and you want to make it work. 100%, I get that. I do that all the time. But if we're experimenting, there still needs to be a desired outcome. So you're going to be grabbing things that could lead you to that. So let's start this off with something that I absolutely love, and that's going to be drop stabs. Now, drop stabs usually come on the first beat of the drop, and you can repeat these every bar, every 2 bars, every 4 bars, or maybe every 8 bars. It just depends on your song. Now, let's run through a parade of drop stabs right here. Now you're going to notice the theme here is that these are all lasting pretty much just one beat. Usually on the first half of the beat, at the very least, you're going to have that tonal sound. And then on the second half, you can either keep that tonal sound going just as one stab, or you can add in like a stab and then a perk on the offbeat. So like right here, you can go doo-doo, or you can just have one stab. And these really give the drop like this adrenaline rush that right when it hits, it has this big impact. And the cool thing about this is that you can pretty much start developing your own style or your own sound of drop stabs. Seth Hills was known for that chord stab, which we've all heard before. So you can really develop the process in which you do it, which becomes familiar, or you can develop the actual sound that it is. Now, this can either be really simple, depending on what sound you use. So you could either have one single thing, or as I usually do, whether it be on purpose or maybe it's even a little too much sometimes, is sometimes I'll just layer a bunch of things that add different characteristics to it. Some sounds that I usually keep in mind are brass samples, bass samples, top synths, and maybe some existing vocals from the song that you're working on, and just some general synth effects to make it interesting. So we're going to build the drop stab and some of the remaining other elements in this video. We're going to build it off this really simple drop. Now, like I said before, I love drop stabs, which is why I created a whole drop stabs folder inside of Black Label. So what we could do first is take out this initial bass hit. Now you could keep that in as a layer, or you can just pretty much take it out completely. So the first note of the bass line right there is an F. We can either grab something that is an F, or of course we'll have to pitch it accordingly. So anything labeled with a BPM, typically there's going to be some sort of rhythm to it or some sort of percussion in it. So we could try this one. And if you pitch samples, obviously sometimes it's going to lose some of its quality. So we can go up 2 right there for this one. This will get us to F. And of course, these are already made, so it's going to sound pretty decent right off the bat. We could try this one as well. Go down 3. We can match this with the BPM 128. 126 this one is. Now those are pretty simple. You can pretty much just drag and drop those in there. But let's actually make one from scratch really quickly. So let's take that for like a tonal offbeat. I used this one in the last video, but we're gonna use it again. So that's a G. We can take this down to an F. We can add some sidechain on top of that. And we're gonna cut this down to half, just so it's a little tighter and shorter. We could either make this a little percussion. We can make that into an F. Or we can actually go up 7 to make it the perfect fifth. We could actually maybe layer this. Let's go pitch it up 12, put these in the same bus, and then we can add some reverb there. You can see how you can just do 1,000 different things and get a lot of different results. So reverb right there. A lot of reverb. Maybe we can start this rhythm. Could put that in there. So this can act as a little bit of width on that drop as well. Sidechain that to the same bus for right now. Sometimes these can get a little repetitive depending on how you play it out, if you add variation on different parts. So like this might be a little too repetitive. So I usually like to go like this. Do it usually repeat it every 2 bars or so. It's always good to add some variation as you go. So maybe on this one, we can just keep the main, that one, and then on the second one, we can have the higher layer. I actually think it might be a good idea to keep in that first bass stab because this is giving us a lot of power. This is also giving us a lot of low end too. We can also experiment using a chord as well. So we're in the key of F minor. So let's actually just grab something really quickly. Let's try that. So we can draw out the F minor chord. Do, do, do. We can take this and maybe just duplicate it 3 times in the octaves. So now we have 3 different octaves of the same F minor chord. And what I'll typically do is I'll make a bus. So I'll dock these to the right. We can always have these on the right side of the screen or on the mixer. And then I'll just name one of these stab, just so I can route everything in the stab in there. It's just a lot easier when you have it all in one spot. We can add our sidechain in there as well. And then we're going to automate the reverb right here, just for a little reverb sweep. So anything that we put into this bus, it's going to be hit by the reverb, obviously. We're going to sweep it up just like this. Throw this in there. Maybe we could color this up with maybe put some OTT on it, some distortion, not too much, and some noise as well. So let's have this go for a half bar, and then the reverb will take care of it after that. Okay, let's try that. Maybe put this up an octave. One more thing, it's also really cool to sample what you already have. So let's actually take this. So let's take this stab, record that out. It can just give you these artifacts. You know, when you pitch things up and down, it doesn't sound as clean as it once did in its normal pitch, but it almost makes it sound worse, which is in some cases better. It just depends. So let's try this, pitch this up 12 maybe. We could even do the same thing for this brass sample. So we're going to take this, we're going to make it unique, and then we could pitch this up 10. So now we could even take the original chord sample and then put this back to its normal. Maybe just, and we could play with the reverb. You can see how you can just pretty much spend a lot of time in this. Now, the second thing is going to be the drum rhythm. Now, the groove of the drums typically fall on the offbeats for that syncopated type of sound. And this interplay between the drums and the bass line is where a lot of the bounce and drive can come from. So let's start this off. I'll typically throw in just any drum groove loop. So we can maybe add this one in. And the cool thing about these drum grooves is that the percussions are usually wide, they're a little dark, they're on the offbeats. And I'll usually just drag some of these in and then combine them after that. So I like that one right there, so I'll keep that. And this one is blending in with the bass, you can see right here. We're gonna take this one out right there. So I like to keep the ones that are going with the bass pretty close to the bass line, just so I can kind of tell where they're at. And you could hear in this part, little section right here, it was a little empty. And adding this drum groove just made it a little more interesting. We can copy this over. And once again, that's going right there, so we can do that. So I'll just drag in the sample and then I'll let it play through, and wherever I like that drum groove being, I'll keep it in there. That's nice right there. Take that one out. Too much sauce right there. That's perfect. So this one's also going along with the rhythm right there. Perfect. But let's add in maybe some more obscure type of sounds. So we can do various cool sounds, of course. Maybe throw a breath in there. Let's try to add these in there. And I like to add in some fills at the end of every 2 bars or so. I like to add in some fills. Maybe like this one, we could try this one. And you can just chop up drums all day and just go crazy with this. Depending on what you're looking for, you can just keep adding a bunch of stuff. So we'll take the kick out. Not a big fan of that one. Try that one right there. Take the bass out. Some cool percussions as well. You can really see how you can just do a lot of different things when you're messing with this. And the third one is going to be these really alive and modulated synth fills. And these can do a couple things. These can transition us from the build up to the drop, or if you're inside of the drop at the end of 8 bars or so, you can put in these synth fills and they signal that something new is coming, or they at least signal that the end of this section is over and something else is coming after that. And these are meant to be really attention grabbing. Like right when you hear it, you're like, what is that? If you listen to most of Seth Hill's songs, he's always doing this. And you listen to the sound and you're like, what was that? And there's 2 ways to approach it. Once again, you can go the sample-based route, which is where it's pretty much done for you, which is nothing wrong with doing that. It's actually quite easy and what I do most of the time. Or you can use a synth, and then from there, the possibilities are quite endless. So you can pitch it, you can add a bunch of modulations and effects to make it sound, like I said before, like it's coming alive and things like that. So like I said, we could go sample bass, and for the most part, you're just going to match it up to the key of your song or whatever note you would like it to play. And of course, when you pitch these up and down, they won't sound as clean as if it came out of a synth. But once again, that could kind of give it some more character in a sense. So let's push this up to D, or to F, I mean. Maybe take the second half of this, because this one's 4 bars. Let me try another one. It's obviously very pitched. Let's try this one. And with the sample, you can even pitch the sample and do a lot of, abnormal things to it. So let's try that. Pitch range. Maybe try to go like this. Like a quick little one right there. The benefit, I would say, of using it inside of a synth is it'll sound clean no matter what note you play. So if you pitch samples, it's not going to sound good. If you pitch it down 6, it just depends on the sample. But inside of the synth, you can change anything that you want inside of the sound, and it's going to sound pretty clean. So let's take this preset. Then we could have... We'll have this play half a beat right there, half a bar. We're going to turn this up to sustain just so it stays full. Now let's get to work. So we could pitch this up. We'll put this 12. We can automate the pitch bend right there. We can go. You can mess around with the MIDI slides. So I'm thinking like 1, 2, We could even try to use the preset for the main bass. So we're using this preset for the main bass. Maybe go like this of some sort to keep it full. Let's automate this macro right there maybe. -12, we get a full 1 octave pitch. Maybe we can automate this. So we can automate this filter. Let's put like a Schaefer box, and we can mess with you can see how you can just do 1,000 different things for pretty much every single element, which can sometimes hold you back because there's so much to do, but it's also quite cool because there's a lot of different ways you can achieve a lot of cool things. Here, we'll put the pan to an 8th note. Could be cool right there. Automate that in. Maybe for like the second half, like that. Some trusty OTT after that. And then reverb suite, potentially. Let's try it. maybe go do. You can see how you can just automate literally 1,000 different things to get a lot of cool results. And this may take some time to dial in, but you can pretty much get the main idea going. And then from there, you can tweak it as you work on your song, you can tweak it to whatever you want it to be. And one final thing is going to be the reverb sweeps. And I wasn't going to mention this just because a lot of people already know about it, but we can put on some reverb. I like to low cut it a little bit. We can automate the wet, and we're going to put this onto the bass. So typically I'll put this on the main element of the song, whether it be the bass or if there's a lead there as well, I'll put that on the lead. And then from there, we can just draw in some spaces with the reverb. I'm just trying to eye this up real quick. Put that right there, maybe make it a little smoother on this end. So ladies and gentlemen, that'll wrap this video up. Just keep all these things in mind. Peace out.